Rally night, June. Glad you could make it. We knew we'd have a lot of guys out. It's the first week of June. Vacation, man. Everyone's taking off. They're having a lot of fun. But I'm glad you guys are here this evening. I just want to say a big thank you, by the way, to our team, to Jasmine, to Sherry, and Ashley for all the work they do. They're putting in a lot of work into our rally nights. If you came to the last one, you know how much of a blast that was with the Decades Night, and now it's the luau theme. And so I don't know what we're going to do in September, but I'm sure it'll be fantastic. They're working hard to make sure that we have great experiences for you guys, and we can honor and celebrate all that you do, because we're thankful for y'all, man. You guys serve so well on Sunday mornings, and you do such a great job with kids and worship and first impressions and landscaping, all kinds of things you guys do around here. And we just want to say thank you, and we want to have an opportunity just to have a time of connection and just to have a lot of fun. This is enjoyable and fun. How do you not laugh at Ryan Blake trying to make it away with the beach ball? That's great. I would come just to see that. I love the beach, man. I'm sure you guys kind of like it as well. I love the beach. It's one of my favorite places to go. I grew up in the upstate, so we would go to Charleston and vacation and do weekend getaways down here. It was a lot of fun to do. And I love the salt water and how it smells and the wind and the sand. And I love that atmosphere. And I discovered that a lot of people down here, they love to go where I'm from. They like the mountains and the foothills. And it's just kind of funny how opposite we kind of are depending where you live. But I think the beach is great because I get relaxed. I find that's my happy place. I'll go to the beach and I can chill all day long and just relax and have fun. And it's kind of the place where I love to kind of check out. And I was getting I had a Christmas cards this past year, and I get cards from family and that kind of thing and friends. And there was a roommate of mine from college, and he sent me his card. Now he's got a PhD in nanotechnology, so I don't know what that is. Don't ask me, but he's really smart. And so he travels around and he guest lectures and that kind of thing. And so there's a lot of times he'll stay at a university with his wife for like a few months. And I got this postcard and I thought, man, this is really kind of strange. And I texted him. I said, did you move? And is this permanent, And he sent me this picture. I want you to see this picture behind me that he sent me. He sent me this picture right here. And he said, yeah, we moved. I took a position at the University of Hawaii. He's like, so when are you coming to visit? I was like, as soon as I can. Like, I want to get there. That's fantastic. So Hawaii, man, that made me jealous looking at that picture. That's kind of the place, by the way, like we think of like Lilo and Stitch, right? Elvis and paradise and just relaxing and chilling out, and it's kind of easygoing. In a lot of ways, our vacations feel like that. All the guys who are on vacation right now, when they get back, they're going to be thinking, man, that was great. Now I got to get back to reality. Don't you guys go through that kind of motion where you got to get back to reality when you come home? And then all of a sudden, like something like joy is sort of hard to work at. It's easy to have joy. I'm at Disney World. It's the happiest place on earth. It's easy to have joy at the beach. Then I come home and I got to go back to work, and I got school, and I got all the things I got to do at the home. And so joy kind of becomes something I got to work for. And it's something that I don't instinctively possess. And here's the thing. We have to choose, man, to choose to have joy. Every day we got to make a decision. We got to choose to have joy in our lives. And so if I'm honest, if we're all honest in the room right now, because we're all kind of real. If we're all honest, like we serve on Sunday mornings and we lead our groups and we do those things. And sometimes like we're not full of joy because we had a rough week, we had a rough day, whatever it might be. And it spills over into different areas of our lives. And on Sunday morning, it can affect how we serve people. And it can affect how we interact with folks. And it can affect all types of things that we deal with on a Sunday morning experience with our ministry teams or in our groups. And so the reality is this, that we got to be careful when we walk around, that even if we're having a rough week or a rough day, that we don't look like someone drowned our puppy. It's like sometimes we look like that. I look like that sometimes. I throw myself in the mix with you, like I deal with that. We have to make a conscious decision that even though it's been tough, I'm going to choose joy in my life. I'm going to choose to have joy. And so here's the thing. How do you get to the place where you choose to have joy, especially if you have had a rough season and things are difficult for you and you're having a hard time serving with a lot of joy in your life and folks who are coming through? A few things we got to do. First thing is this. You got to start serving with gladness. Serve with gladness. You'll get joy back if you can serve with gladness. Psalm 102 reminds us this. We're to serve the Lord with gladness. Every single person, they serve and they lead, and they should be the most most joyful person on the campus. Did you know that? Like if you serve in a team, you should be the most joyful person, period. In fact, I think you ought to have competition and outdo one another and who can be the most joyful. Like, I mean, go that far and have fun with that. Be full of joy. And here's why. Here's why I say that, okay? Because when you're joyful, it's contagious. Joy is contagious. People feed off of that. They love that. One, Miss Flossie, where's she at? She's here tonight. Come on, I gotta think joy. Come on, Miss Joy. It's hard not to think Miss Flossie, right? Like it's hard not to think of her. Joy, be full of that. It's contagious. It spills over all over the place. It calms people's nerves. It's a lot of fun. But here's the most important thing. Joy always precedes hope. It's always precedes hope. Before you have hope, you got joy. I'm excited. I'm having fun. I'm happy. There's joy in my life. And because I have joy, I can be hopeful. And there are person after person coming through our doors. They're looking for hope and they're looking for that peace. And that joy that you have, that's contagious. And once they catch that, now they can have hope in their lives as well. Joy is that contagious. And we want to make sure that we're giving it out to folks. We can't be in a position to give hope if we don't have joy. And we can't be in a position to minister people effectively if we don't have joy either. And so one of the ways you start serving with gladness and have joy in your life when you're serving is to make sure you're a positive person. Be positive. So many negative voices are in our world right now. Like I think one of the best things we could do is turn off Fox News and CNN for a little bit. You know, maybe you need to take a break from social media for a little while just to get off. Like whatever you can do, drown out the negative voices that are around you. And if you find yourself being somebody who's bent towards the negative and you're always kind of negative and you're thinking that way, it could be that maybe you have too many negative influences and voices in your life. I don't think you're wired to be negative. I don't think you're wired with your personality to be that way. It's got more to do with the things you allow in that spill out. So turn some of that stuff off, dude, and be positive. And here's why. This is really important. In fact, I think if there's anything you're going to remember from tonight, I want you to remember this. Write it down, whatever. This is really important right here. People don't remember our words. They don't. People don't remember our words, but they remember how we made them feel. You can get all the kind words you want to say, but if you treated somebody like a jerk, they're going to walk out thinking, you were a jerk, right? They're going to feel that way. If you want them to feel loved, it doesn't matter what you say. It matters really what you do. What did you do to make them feel loved? Did you come alongside them and pray for them in a moment where God was moving and their heart was breaking? Maybe you helped them, it was raining outside and you grabbed the umbrella if you're a first impressions guy and you're outside and you're holding the umbrella up as they're walking in the door. We want to value people. They remember how you made them feel. Words really only go so far. So serving with joy, man, that makes people feel valued and welcomed and hopeful. And one of the ways we do that is to serve with gladness. Now, if we're going to have joy and choose joy in our lives, you don't have to just serve with gladness. You also got to do something else. You got to be content. Make sure you're content with your life and all that God is doing in your life, because contentment feeds joy. Sometimes we fall into this trap of the good old days, I remember when Ezra was born, and dude, I could not wait until he was crawling, and then he started, walking and talking. How fun would that be? All the cool things you would do, and now that he is walking and talking and running and throwing and all that, sometimes I'm like, chill, we're good. I heard it 5 times. I don't need to hear it again, Don't throw that in the house. What is wrong with you? He takes the cat. He wants to throw the cat down the stairs. No, stop. You have those kinds of things. It happens, man. And it's funny how parents, one of the things that I notice, when he gets older, I'm just going to have to make a deal and say, son, every time I mention you or a story, I'll give you $1. I don't want to embarrass my son as he gets older, but right now he doesn't know. It's funny, parents, I think what we do to our kids sometimes is, I hear parents all the time, well, I can't wait till Johnny is in elementary school. That'll be kind of cool when this happens. And then when they become teenagers, we'll do this together or whatever. I kind of noticed that when your kids become teenagers, it's sort of different. It's I wish you were 5 again. Where did that go? It's funny how the good old days are always either ahead of us or behind us. They're just never with us. You ever thought about that? Like they're not with us right now. Psalm 118:24 says this. This is the day the Lord's made. We will what? Rejoice. I'm going to have joy, not tomorrow, not yesterday. I want to have it today. Like today's the day that the Lord's made, and I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. The good old days, man, are today. They're today. Don't get caught up in looking for tomorrow or yesterday that you missed what God wants to do in your life today and in this moment right here. There's a lot of things that are already at work trying to keep you from embracing what God has for you today. One of those things, I don't want to hit on it too much. I don't want to feel like I'm picking on it, but social media is a big culprit. It just is. You got to watch it. Some of y'all do well with social media. You don't care. It's fine. Others of you, man, like you're on it all the time, you know? And here's the problem with social media. If you're not careful, you get caught up in the comparison game. And so I can't be satisfied with today because I'm caught up in the comparison game and I'm looking for tomorrow. And I look at my marriage and my spouse and what they're doing. And I see what this spouse is doing. Why can't my spouse be like them? Why can't my kids do this? Why can't our house look like this house over here? You know, like sometimes I catch myself saying that. We got so many projects that are unfinished in my home. Anybody else like that? Like you got, the hands are everywhere. See, honey, it's everybody. Okay, good. So we're in this. But like we're comparing stuff. We compare. And here's the thing. What you do is you compare your weakness to everybody else's highlight reel. And the problem with that is they don't want you to see everything. So you're comparing your marriage that's healthy and that has a conflict because marriage has that thing to somebody else's marriage who's falling apart. You just don't know it. And they're trying to make themselves feel better and puff it up. You're comparing your kids or house or job with things that other people don't have together. Don't compare. Just be content with where you're at. Don't let discontentment rob you of your joy, because comparison will do that. Be effective in how you minister to people and serve the folks by not comparing. Be content with what God's doing in your life. What is God? Always ask the question when you find yourself sliding like this, hey, God, what do you got for me today? What do you have for me today? Who do you have for me to come in contact with today? Who should I, what's there for me today? Who can I serve and reach today? And if you're content like that, then you'll start serving with joy. In order to be content, you also have to live out your purpose. And so to live out your purpose, here's the thing. You got to know what that purpose is. We've talked a lot about that here at Faith. Most of you in the room have completed Life Point. You're going through it. We talk a lot about purpose and helping you discover what that is. And part of that means you're also chasing something. And that something is called vision. There's something that God's given you, a vision that excites you and ramps you up. And you're chasing that vision and you're wanting to jump into it. Well, here's the thing. Just be careful that you never lose the vision that God gives you. Never lose that vision that God has given you. Proverbs 29 verse 18 tells us this, that when there is no vision, people die. And I like how the Message puts it. The Message says this, if people can't see what God is doing, they'll stumble all over themselves. Some of the most depressing and low moments that we have in our lives come when we have no vision. When you find yourself down and stressed out to the max and you don't have that joy, could it be you've lost your vision, which means you've lost your why? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Some of you guys, you've been serving maybe on teams, and in my perfect world, nobody goes through this. Everybody's on cloud nine, and we're all great. But I know that's not the world we live in. Maybe you're here tonight, and I'm just picking on teams. I'm not saying any one particular person, but maybe you serve on a team like Faith Kids. And you had vision for Faith Kids, and you had excitement for Faith. I'm pouring into the next generation. It was fun. It was great. I know why I got behind this and why I started doing this. And maybe you were on First Impressions, and you remember what it felt like, because when you first came through the door, you had a Flossie Smith who loved on you, and you had a Deborah Shelton, you had a Mike McCutcheon, you had somebody like there who welcomed you and loved on you and made you feel at home. And he said, man, I want everyone to feel what I felt. And so you jumped on First Impressions because that was the vision that you had, but over time you lost sight of it. And as you lost sight of the vision, you lost sight of your why, and so you started going through the motions, and all of a sudden, instead of I get to do this, isn't it crazy that I get to do this? Now it's sort of like, yeah, I gotta do it. Because nobody else gonna do it, I gotta do it. Listen, ain't nobody else gotta do it. You just sit on down, like, well, fine. Like, don't worry about it. You gotta have the right attitude. I'm stepping a little bit on toes. I'm trying not to do that. But like, we got to have the right attitude with that. Like, it's okay. It's okay. So the right attitude is this. I got to get my vision back. I got to remember the why. Why do I do what I do? And what I've noticed is this, that when vision decreases, options increase. And so what happens is we begin to think, man, if I jumped off this team, I'll be okay. I'll get a breather and I'll go on this other team over here. And at one point, I was the guy who said, yeah, do that. Jump off, get your break, go serve. Oh, okay. What I've discovered is this, though, over time, that actually doesn't fix your problem. You think it's burnout. Burnout comes from doing too many things that don't matter, not from doing too many things. And so what happens is you jump off your team, I'll be okay, I'll catch up. Then you jump on a new team, but the same problem's there. You lost your why. You lost your vision. That's what it is. And if you don't fix that, it doesn't matter how many teams you're on or groups you lead or whatever, you're still going to wind up in the exact same place. You got to have the why behind your vision. Psalm 126, 1 through 2, it reminds us that God can give us that vision back, help us to dream again. In fact, it says this, when the Lord brought his exiles to Jerusalem, it was like a dream. We were filled with laughter and we sang with joy, right? And other nations said, what amazing things the Lord has done for them. What happens when we begin to dream again and get the vision back, we get our joy back and we get our why back, and we realize that what I do is important, and I do this to reach people who are far from God. Because when we're honest, whether it's because you're pouring into the next generation, whether it's because you want to make sure everyone's welcome when they come through the door, whether it's because I'm taking care of the property so it looks good, whatever it might be, everything comes back to one shared why that we all have, and that is this. We want people to be connected to Christ. I want folks to come to know Jesus as Lord and Savior. That's where all comes back to. Jesus says this, that there's more rejoicing in heaven from the angels when one person comes to know God than 99 others who don't need repentance. So you want your joy back, get your why back. Get that vision back. The times that I preach the hardest are the times where I know there are people who are far from God in the congregation, and I focus on that one or two people and nobody else, and it's like I'm preaching to them. It'll change you. You'll smile more. You'll serve better. You'll notice the things that you got to take care of. Like, you will step your game up when you realize that what I'm doing is making an eternal difference in somebody's life. It's helping them get the focus where they need to be. You know your lessons as a kids worker. You don't read them from a paper. You internalize those lessons. You know them because you know that kid might come to know Christ and they will go home and there'll be an impact in their family that is made because of what they've done. So you internalize that. You know your chords when you're playing, and you let that song sit with you during the week and be a part of you, so when you come in on Sunday morning, you're already touched and impacted by the very song you want other people to be touched and impacted by, right? So you know those chords. You stick to your cues and your transitions in the media booth because you don't want a distraction that might pop up and get somebody else off track who needs Christ. And you love people who are unlovable and difficult to deal with. If you're a first impressions person, you make sure there's no trash taken out to the dump, and you clean up the yard and you cut the grass and all the things that folks don't think matter, because you want people to step foot on the property and not be distracted by, well, there's weeds there, the trash smells. Like, everybody here makes a difference. Every job, every role is important and impactful to make sure people who are far from God can come to know him. It's a town in Mississippi called Rodney. And I don't know if anyone here has ever heard. Anyone ever heard of Rodney? And nobody. Okay, good. I thought so. Back when Mississippi was a territory, so we're like 150, 60 plus years ago, right? So back when it was a territory, it sat on the Mississippi River, kind of in one of those coves, that zigzag the river does. And it sat on one of those coves, and it almost became the capital. It lost by 3 votes, 3 measly votes, man. But it almost became the capital. And it was a big city. It was a thriving city. Because it was on the river, it was wealthy and prosperous. It was the ports were the big players at the time. But here's the thing. As time went on, the importance of the city kind of waned a little bit. and debris began to build up. And before you knew it, 100-something years later in the 1900s, this city, which once was on the river, it found itself 3 miles away. All the debris and sediment that had been pushed up for all that time had caused the river to actually move. And you can go there today if you want to, but you're going to find a literal ghost town. Not a single person lives in what was once the most important and thriving city in the state of Mississippi. It's completely empty. In fact, one of the few things that's actually left there still is the Rodney Presbyterian Church. It's one of the few buildings that's still there. It's dilapidated, it's ugly, it's fallen apart, just like everybody else in that town that's no longer there. And I'm sure those guys, like, they had vision and they had passion and they had joy at one point when they were going to that church. They were thriving, you know. And I'm sure what they did not notice is that from a spiritual point of view, not just from physical movement that the town made, but I'm sure they didn't notice the loss of joy and discontentment and lack of vision. And the next thing you know, you're far away from the very source of life, the river of life, right? Christ, as you can get. And here's the thing, I don't ever want that to happen to our church. I don't ever want our church to wind up like that. I don't ever want you personally in your soul to wind up like that, right? What I want for you is to have joy, for this campus to have joy. So serve with gladness, man. Be content. Don't lose vision, and serve with joy.